Welcome to Bonanno TV. This is our second show as a broadcasting company incorporated in Lusaka. I'm Martha Chileshe broadcasting live from Lusaka, Zambia. And this Saturday segment on Bonanno TV is going to be called One-on-One with Dr. Kasonso. We're going to talk about current issues in business and finance with a focus on Zambia. Please share this discussion with your friends on Facebook and do subscribe to Bonanno TV if you have not done so yet. We are live on YouTube as well. So here at Bonanno TV, we monitored the performance of the kwacha this week, and at the close of business, the US dollar to the kwacha was buying at 15 kwacha 74 ngwe and selling at 15 kwacha 79. The British pound was buying at 17 kwacha 42 and selling at 17 kwacha 48. The euro was buying at 15 kwacha 35 and selling at 15 kwacha 40, whilst the South African rand was buying at 0.87 kwacha and selling at 0.88 kwacha. The kwacha slightly depreciated against the dollar, whilst making marginal gains on the British pound as well as the euro. The kwacha regained constance in its performance against the South African rand from last week. But overall, these marginal changes did not have a significant impact on business. Now, since the beginning of this year, we have had the kwacha posting small gains and appreciated marginally above the rates, obtaining week by week and month by month. Today, with all these incremental gains reaching an 18.5% growth rate against major convertible currencies, the kwacha is the best performing currency in the world. Apparently, there is something great going on at the Bank of Zambia and in the general movement of commerce in and out of Zambia under the New Dawn administration. One-on-One with Dr. Kasonso, we launched a series of discussions on the business prospects of the Zambian economy in the post-IMF deal. Today is the budget talk. And briefly, I would introduce my guest as I bring in Dr. Kasonso, who is my guest shortly this evening. Good evening, Dr. Kasonso.
Hey, Martha, good evening. How are you doing there?
I'm doing well, Doc. How is the US? How is Iowa this evening? Must be afternoon that side.
Yeah, it's late afternoon, but we're fine, and God's taking good care of us.
That is awesome to hear. That is awesome to hear, Dr. Kasonso. So like I alluded to, I'll be the host of this program here on Bonanno TV, and many other great people will be joining me from time to time. Now, as we all are aware that on Friday, September 30th, 2022, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, presented the 2023 budget in Parliament. So today, we bring you the first part of our 2023 budget discussions, where we get to discuss the nature of the national budget and its main purposes. The goal of this budget, as we see it, we contrast the 2023 budget with the 2022 budget and discuss the highlights. We also discuss the main challenges that the New Dawn administration is going to face in maintaining the credibility of the 2023 budget, the future of ZESCO, and where we see the country in the next 15 months. Please share this discussion with your friends on Facebook and subscribe to Bonanno TV if you have not yet done so. So we are live on YouTube as well. Now, Dr. Kasonso, before we delve into the details of this discussion, what's a national budget and what are the main purposes of the national budget?
Well, excellent question, Martha. First of all, we have to understand that the announcement of the national budget is a necessary part of the life cycle of the financials and the economy of the country. Basically,
Yeah.
the national budget are estimates of revenues and expenditure, and where the money is going to come from, and how it's going to be spent. Policymakers use the budget process to establish spending priorities, to determine who will pay for those activities. Those
Right.
decisions that affect the lives of Zambians as well as the national economy. Now, you have to split between two things: tradition and specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, the budget is presented to allow scrutiny. So taxpayers, voters, the legislature, and in other cases, even the opposition, uh, the stakeholders of the resources are raised by government and the uses of which these will be to this which will be put. The publication of a budget thus performs the role of generating accountability for the actions of government at various levels. The government is literally saying, hold us accountable to this. This is how we are going to raise the money, and this is how we're going to spend it. Now, the main purpose of a budget is to ensure that the unlimited needs of the population are prioritized in the order of importance. This allows one to plan expenditure in such a way that priority areas such as housing, education, and healthcare can
Mm-hmm.
be met from the resources of the country. So that is what the national budget is and its purpose.
What an awesome explanation, Dr. Kasonso. Thank you so much. What's the main thing that the new administration is trying to achieve through the 2023 budget?
Oh, thank you, Martha. Through the 2023 budget, they have stated what they want to achieve. They've even targeted the budget by its name. But what we financial analysts do is to go the drill down into the expenditures and figure
Right.
out what exactly and deductively figure out what they are actually trying to do. And in my analysis, I perceive three things. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
um, this year's budget, this coming upcoming year's budget, continues what they're trying to achieve is to continue weathering the storms of the global economy. Now, there
Mm-hmm.
have been disturbing events taking place from war to this biggest country in Europe against the entire world. It's kind of like Tupac, me against the world.
Mm-hmm. Me against the world.
Me against the world, Putin against the world. So
Right.
that has created a storm in the global economy that caused the global economy to stagnate. And
Mm-hmm.
the new Dawn administration, in their ways of spending money, I think
Mm-hmm.
that they are trying to continue weathering the storms of the global economy out of those main conflicts and their impact on energy and other things. And secondly, it's
Mm-hmm.
to take opportunity offered by the evolving structure of the global economy. It's to take opportunities offered by the evolving structure of the global economy. So what is happening here is very simple. The
Yes.
problems that have come, the stagnation of the global economy over the last several months due to war and other things,
Mm-hmm.
have also created potentially a new structure of the global economy. And there are opportunities there. So this budget has been written in such a way that it takes into account, or it seeks to
Yes.
mobilize the population to take advantage of those
Right.
opportunities. And the third thing I've observed from my analytics of the numbers presented by the Honorable Minister is to
Yeah.
achieve, is to improve the welfare of citizens through increased opportunities offered by the expanded economy. They
Mm-hmm.
believe in their planning that if we grow the pie, then we
Mm-hmm.
have more hands eating that pie. Now,
Right.
what we mean by growing the pie is that expand the economy, bring in more money, create more economic opportunities for
Mm-hmm.
people. And because we expand the economy grows, then people will have more opportunities in that economy. I think those are the three main reasons that the new Dawn administration is trying to achieve through their budget.
Awesome, Dr. Kasonso. I got your word. We have to extend the pie in order to grow the economy.
Yes.
Excellent. Tell me, Dr. Kasonso, how would you then contrast the 2022 budget to the 2023 budget? And what are the main highlights to that effect?
That's a brilliant question. You know,
Yes,
we have to start with the price tag.
that's right.
We have to start with the price tag. Last year's budget was for 172 billion. This year's
Yeah.
budget is 169 billion, approximately, give and take.
Okay.
Now, what is happening is this. First of all, that looks like the budget went down by like $3 billion. But
Absolutely.
in actual spending power,
Hmm.
that change is negligible. Why do I say that? I say
Yes.
that because there are several things that are going on here. That 172 billion kwacha of last year,
Yes.
the 169 billion kwacha of today, in
Hmm.
dollar terms, is an
Hmm.
identical figure.
Okay.
So it
Hmm.
just means that government spending from last year's levels isn't going to change much.
Okay.
That is the first thing that we have to look at. And that's because the kwacha has appreciated significantly over the
Hmm.
last 12 months. The kwacha has appreciated significantly. So some
Right.
of that appreciation takes care of that difference. And the
Okay.
other thing we have to notice is that because of the improvement in the rates of inflation, what that $169 billion can buy is probably at the same level with what $172 billion can buy. So, therefore, it is very clear from the intentions of this government that there are no austerity measures. Government is not trying to cut costs so they send people in poverty to fulfill the
Hmm.
machinations of the IMF. I think some economists who probably read from a 1972 textbook are trying to bring that into discussion. There's no austerity going on here. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, but we have to see where government is spending money on in this year's budget, which contrasts to last year.
Right.
They have offered to recruit more people, so it means that government is going to expand. Now you have to understand, Martha, that we,
Yes.
the financial analysts, don't want big government because big
Hmm.
government introduces a bureaucracy that can be a drag on the economy. But the thing that has happened over the last 10 years is that the social welfare of the people have not been taken care of. And religious, almost religious beliefs into if we construct these roads on debt, and
Yes.
automatically the people become rich. That's religion. That's not economics or financial analysis. So
Okay.
this government this year, in this year's budget, they've offered 2,000 police officers recruitment,
Yes.
4,500 additional teachers. Now you
Mhm.
see that last year they recruited 30,000.
Yes,
There's
they
a
did.
dramatic drop down because the
Absolutely.
30,000 absorbed a lot of teachers who were not hired over the last 10 years. So now
Okay.
going forward, we are going to what will look like the normal levels, 3,000 healthcare workers. And then the other thing I wanted you to see, which wasn't there in last year's budget as a contrast, is that there are meal
Mhm.
allowances for students on government bursary in government institutions. Now, that must be seen as a form of employment. Why? Because when the students receive these meal allowances at these institutions, that will be
Yes.
like their little salary from the government.
Okay.
So if we take the population of the students at these government institutions and their meal allowances, that is going to spur a lot more spending in the economy and a lot of activity in the economy. So abakweto tuntemba tonse na ubafire nomba by kumikako kwebata students wale stefia kule pantemba shabo and things like that. So government
Mm.
is trying to, also reward the people who voted for them. You know
Oh,
that this government was brought into office predominantly by the youth vote.
that's
So
right.
when they go and get their meal allowances, they are getting payback for their vote. Yeah. So then the CDF is now going to be at 28.3. million. Now that is very significant. It's I should probably say it's going to be 30 million. Why? Because the $28 million of this year, to 28 million kwacha per constituency this year, compared to this year, is probably around 30 million kwacha for last year. So because of the improvement in the value of the kwacha against major currencies. So government seeks to take the financial resources to the people. Now, this is where I have cautioned that CDF is very good for Zambia. But CDF also it might be two things, one of two things. Either the greatest story of empowering citizens out of the entirety of the whole Africa, the best way to empower citizens, or it might end up to be the greatest ploy to make people that they have help even when they have nothing. So it is very important that these amounts are expended in their entirety in that entire year for us to see the difference that can be projected. So, and then government has also committed themselves that the monies that they didn't distribute last year, they are not going back to the Ministry of Finance. It's not like, oh, if you don't use this money, we're going to take it away. So what it means is that the government is decentralizing the wealth of the country. People don't have to go to Lusaka for a contract. They can stay right in their constituency and access the money through a constructive project. TEVT institutions will be modernized. Then the completion of works on trade institutes in specific areas. Pay as you earn is going to be increased. Now instead of paying as you earn on 4,500, you have to earn at least 4,800 for you to be taxed on your income. So all schools in the country are going to be electrified. So that is very important, Martha, to electrify all public schools in the country. Why? Because then we are able to take the computers to the classroom so that we can train students as a country who are able to go to the marketplace with the requisite skill in the kind of world that they will work in. Social cash transfers beneficiaries, there's an increase in terms of the number. In terms of the number from 900,000 to 1.4 million, about 1.4 million beneficiaries. That's an increase of 500,000 more beneficiaries transfers. So the government is intending to take care of people who have no means. So there is no talk of austerity in this budget plan. Retirees to get their pensions in 3 months after retirement. 65 early childhood schools will be constructed. 150 secondary schools that have not been completed for the last 10 years now are going to be finished. 120 secondary schools will be constructed to help. Now the government is counting is quoting and counting on the help from the World Bank to fulfill this. So what it is like, we are bringing back the country to where it needs to be, where people should live a normal life and should be able to find opportunities in their own country. So that is how we could contrast it from last year. Now, lastly, the most important thing I would like to contrast from last year is about the sources of the money. Last year, Martha, there were special drawing rights of the amount for the $1.5 billion that the government of Zambia received from the IMF right before the New Dawn government took over power.
Yes.
That drawing rights, special rights, are not in the budget this year. So the way government wants to meet that is, first of all, to increase the sources of revenue and how they are going to generate them. And also bridging that with a borrowing cap on that. That's what I saw in Honorable Mutwane's budget on that.
Yes. Wow, excellent, Professor. I see that there a lot of awarding contrasts out of that, and you see that the young people are taken care of. It's heartwarming to note that secondary schools will be electrified and bursary has been granted. Oh my God. And meal allowances to young people, those in university. What an awesome venture, really. We must
So,
applaud the
so
government.
just on that matter, so not to shuka, favor sponsor and a school. Favor,
Chachine.
but too many questions here. One valley of parliament, no Kialanda, Bakula free,
Wow.
pia mtumba ya buteko, no kubapela ba Bakula kwa tesha fiakuli.
Awesome. Awesome. What a beautiful gesture.
Yeah.
So tell me, Professor, what are the main challenges that the new Dawn administration then is going to face in maintaining the credibility of the 2023 national budget?
Excellent question, Martha. One of the things when I was listening to the minister, he
Yeah.
touted the credibility of last year's budget. Credibility of the budget goes to the fact that when the government pronounces that this is what they intend to do,
Yes.
they must not deviate from that. But if the deviation from the standard budget is within 10 to 15%, we say that there is credibility in that budget. So we can check mark the box that the New Dawn government exceptionally did well in terms of credibility for 2022 budget, and they are on track on
Okay.
issues that remain unquestioned. So now the 2023 budget has
Yes.
got a genie in there, and there is an elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the debt restructuring. At the time of the budget, government doesn't yet know what the restructured debt would look like. This has the
Okay.
greatest potential to alter the estimates of expenditure, if not even the revenues. So, if I might simplify that, they have something in front of them called debt restructuring. They don't know what that would look like. So that has the potential to throw off significantly a lot of their estimates in terms of revenues, if also expenditures. The 2022 budget was in part funded by a special drawing rights of half of the 1.5 billion received from the IMF. That gap is going to have to be filled because it's not going to be there this year. The special drawing rights have not been touted in this year's budget. Maybe they can still get some more money out of that. But the way I see it, they have to raise more revenues locally, and they also have to raise, kind of maybe reduce on certain things that they want to spend the money on. So the elephant on the room is the debt restructuring. So we must keep our eyes on what is going on in these negotiations. Do we get some debt forgiveness? Do we get to scale off a proportion of interest in the net present value of those bonds that were irresponsibly borrowed for structures that are worth less than half of the value of the bonds?
Right. Wow. The elephant in the room is the debt restructuring, and that's where the challenge lies, Professor. Thank you for that beautiful explanation. You have highlighted how debt situation has the greatest potential to throw out the estimates, out of line. One of the dates is ZESCO itself, hinging on the 1.5 billion. How is the government trying to resolve ZESCO's indebtedness, Professor?
Yeah, ZESCO is a critical element. Yeah, but in terms of debt,
Yes.
the dates on ZESCO that went to the constructions of power generating infrastructure is part of the deal.
Okay.
Yeah, so because it's part of the deal, government has wisely allowed themselves the leeway not to lose that important national asset to the creditors. So now, what is required, what they're probably going to have to do is to ensure that ZESCO is restructured operationally. First of all, to allow it to contribute a lot more to the repayment of the debt, first. And secondly, to allow it to become more operationally viable so that in the future, it doesn't have to contract such kind of debts. So we are going to see a separation of ZESCO's operations into separate divisions, if not even companies. For example, generation of electricity separated from distribution of electricity. So if you create a company, for example, around generation of electricity, majority of the debt will fall on that enterprise. So that enterprise, so in the generation, may have to be partially privatized so that government can get a new capital. And it's this new capital that can, in part, streamline, improve operations, but also pay off some of the debt down.
All right.
Yeah. So partial privatization of ZESCO and expansion and potential for growth for, but the downside to these efficiencies is that the Zambian households may have to see higher electricity bills. I will be pleased to see if this is not the case, but I can almost predict that the efficiencies in this area may lead to higher electricity tariffs. Yeah, but then that means the unions in the country must be prepared to bargain for better salaries. Yes, we are happy civil servants are being employed, but how much are they going to get paid? So within that economy, there must be a give and take situation where if the electricity tariffs rises, people have extra money from other sources to be able to cover that. So, and in the midst of an expanded economy, then that will be a bargain, that will be a bonus rather than a drawback.
Thank you, Dr. Kasonso. That's a beautiful explanation. Now, if the government does not manage to weather the debt scheduling storm on their budgeted estimates, where do we see the economy in the next 15 months?
You're asking me to be CR0 or CR5.
CR5.
CR5. CR5. So anyway, first of all, the debt scheduling, we should, as Christians, I say this not as a financial analyst, but as a man of God, we have to pray for the government to be successful in restructuring debt to affordable levels. Because if that happens, the next 15 months, we are talking about increased economic activity countrywide. The country will have bigger potential and greater national income to even pay off the rescheduled debts. And more people will be able to access good healthcare, educational opportunities, employment opportunities, and food safety. If the government does not negotiate successfully on that score, then we can anticipate tremendous hardship. So we have seen the shore as a ship called Zambia, but we haven't yet gotten to the dry land. We are still in deep waters of debt. That is where I see the economy of Zambia. I see more expanded opportunities, government initiatives. I think there is also a need, Martha, to motivate and mobilize the private sector to come to the ground and play ball. Because if government is able to create these levels of employment, the private sector has ability, is a multiplier effect in normal economies. there is a multiplier effect from the private sector.
That's right.
Yeah. So, for example, in the budget, the government wants to increase credit facilities for small businesses. Credit facilities for small businesses are going to be the driver of the efforts to reduce unemployment in the Republic of Zambia. You know, there are three, economic development or expansion of the economy is a three-legged stool.
Okay.
I have always said this in the past 9 years, 10 years now. On all platforms, I've discussed the economy of Zambia. The first stool of that is inventions, coming up with original ideas. And two, innovations, the turning of these inventions into successful business enterprises. And then imitations, which are to replicate that from one area to the other areas. So if we can see the largest employers in the country are small-scale businesses. The small-scale businesses that must be put top of the agenda in this country are in two areas. One, the mines, because of high-value commodities and the export benefits. And two, the agriculture, because the agriculture is the biggest employer. And if the nation is able to ramp up these two areas using credit facilities to small businesses, then we can see an sporadically expanded economy in the next 15 months. So what what needs to happen for this budget to be successful, we need cooperation from every citizen, from every corner and every count, every group, from every group, to be able to laser be focused on that. Like I mentioned, one of the budget's many intentions is to take advantage of the opportunities left. Russia and Ukraine grow a lot of food that are eaten in probably half of the population of the world. Now that they've been at war, they haven't been in a position to take that food there. So if we make proper investments in the food industry in the Zambia, and we can be able to export food to other countries, that will expand the economy and that will grow employment, that will improve the welfare of our people. And then in the mines also, if the government's policy to keep stable the tax regime, but co-opt the mining companies to increase productivity, increase the metric tonnage of the amount of minerals that they are able to channel out of the country, then the government also can get more revenue through royalties, which is top-end money, rather than wait for calculation of taxes, which is top-down money. So there is an opportunity for expansion in the country, but government voices must just go on the media, go to meet the people. The president should create rallies, ramp up, energize the people, that we can build this country and we can move it in the direction that we aspire it to be. And we don't have to go to another country, another foreign institution to borrow money. We can do it. And it's possible in the Republic of Zambia with hard work, smart work, cooperation, and proper financial management and proper credit facilities. I read in the budget, the minister, the Minister of Finance intends to raise $20 million for small-scale businesses. That's a little drop in the ocean. And I think that the people in government should think bigger, because if you calculate the actual need, if you look at the unemployment numbers and you calculate the actual need, Martha, we need 50 times that amount. Now, 50 times more that amount to put a serious dent in the unemployment in Zambia. Employing 4,000 people into government, or 3,000 there, 3,000, isn't going to change much of the economy. So we need to have a way to create a robust credit facility for small-scale businesses. I'm privileged to live in this country where the biggest employer are small-scale businesses. But you go and look at what they do at the Small Business Administration and the amount of loans that they are able to guarantee for small businesses to access more capital and more money, especially for things that banks can go and recover, building the infrastructure and buying the machinery and bringing in all those kind of things. You know, Martha, we can do this, but the new Dawn government also needs to start thinking bigger. That's the challenge we have to live with them. The budget looks good, but in certain areas, too much small thinking. We need to have an expanded way of going forward and creating more opportunities for people in the country.
Awesome, Professor. You have rightly explained, and I must thank you for that brilliant explanation. The government has a huge task and a huge challenge to thrive on. The people must take advantage of the enabling environment that has been created. The small-scale traders must also jump on the bandwagon to take advantage of the situation. What recommendations then, Prof, can you make for public policy improvements?
Increase the amount of credit to small-scale businesses.
Yes.
The $20 million that they have sourced is too small. It's too small.
Right.
On that, as a teaching individual in the college and university, I would say that in that area, they can do better. So we recommend that they increase that threshold and the credit facility to small-scale businesses, especially in towards infrastructure development for increased production and also equipment and machinery to be able to increase food production, mineral production, and things like that. So otherwise, we have great intentions and good people trying to lead the country. Can we improve? Oh yes, we can. Oh yes, we can. So our recommendation here is to say, raise more money for small-scale businesses. If they create more jobs than any other type of industry, and $20 million is a little drop in the ocean, increase that money. And also encourage consultancy in financial services.
Right.
For example, we saw that the CDF monies were not appropriated by the average citizen.
That's right.
You know, take a group of small companies, encourage people to start small companies in financial services that are going to write business proposals for people and help the government in tracking and auditing such expenditures. And then the people can use those small businesses to be able to go and appropriate government money and use it to grow and expand the economy. With the seriousness in the rule of law and law enforcement and changes to certain laws that prevent. So we can also recommend changes to certain laws that inhibit the development, business development. Yeah. So those are the few recommendations that we have for them from this discussion, Martha. And thank you for having me. And I hope we can come back next week and say some more about some of the same topics.
Thank you, Dr. Kasonso. I must thank you for your exceptional presentation and explanation, for bringing us up to book on those great nuggets and ideas of the 2023 national budget. Thank you so much. And we are on Bonanno TV. We encourage you to stay connected to Bonanno TV. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. Subscribe to Bonanno TV. Thank you for joining us. Catch you on our next show.